to perfection as nobody else has done. In him is reflected all the good and bad in humanity, the wide and motley panorama of the human marketplace, all its suffering and sorrow, all its anger and indignation. The literary atmosphere at home refined Maisky's acute powers of observation, which were enhanced by his rich imagination and his curiosity. It helped forge his complex personality, which, while romantic and artistic, was also governed by a belief in reason, science, knowledge, and the right of man to be master of life on earth. The novels opened a window on Europe, and awakened in Maisky a longing for travel and an interest in geography, which would gradually shape his cosmopolitan outlook once in exile. That particular inquisitiveness was enriched by exposure to the bustling life of Omsk's port, where Maisky spent any free moment he had strolling about the wharves and by the steamers, looking at everything, listening and nosing about. I listened to the stories of the pilots and sailors about their work and adventures, and about the distant towns and places they visited. In reconstructing a revolutionary past, Maisky would later identify a rebellious streak in the family, a dissident member of the clergy who went off the rails and joined certain revolutionary circles in the mid-19th century. Likewise, he would claim that his own parents sympathized with the populist movement, that his mother had even gone down to the people, and that his father had come into conflict with the authorities at the hospital in which he worked over his failure to prevent the young medical cadets from expressing revolutionary ideas in 1905. Maisky makes much of the special relationship he cultivated with his artist uncle, M.M. Chemadonov, who worked as a Zemstvo doctor in a remote village and was mildly involved in revolutionary activities. However, at their core, Maisky's background and education were typical of the professional middle class, void of any political awareness. Having graduated from the local gymnasium at the age of 17 with a gold medal, Maisky enrolled at St. Petersburg University, where he read history and philology. His literary talents were noticed around that time, when his first poem, I Wished to Be a Great Thunderstorm, was published in Siberian Life under the pseudonym New Man. His university education at St. Petersburg, however, came to an abrupt and premature end when he was arrested and charged with revolutionary agitation. He was put under police surveillance in Omsk, where he joined the Menshevik wing of the Russian Social Democratic movement. In 1906, he was detained once again for taking an active part in the 1905 revolution and was sentenced to exile in Tobolsk, where he produced a manuscript inspired by the Webb's The History of Trade Unionism. Maisky had stumbled upon this by sheer chance when he was a student at St. Petersburg. He would later confess to Sidney and Beatrice Webb that it greatly contributed to my political education and to a certain extent helped me to find the path which I followed in my subsequent life. Never indeed, he wrote to his cousin in 1901, have I read any novel with such a thrill as the Webb's book. How feeble, miserable, and nonsensical all my former literary enthusiasms seem to me. The evolutionary Fabian stream, with its strong social humanist bent, suited Maisky's temperament and served him as a political beam of light. Its residue was always close to the surface, even when he had to break with his Menshevik past and display loyalty to Bolshevism. Once in England, he cultivated intimate relations with the Webbs which lasted until their death, as is well attested in both his and Beatrice Webb's diaries. Maisky's sentence was eventually commuted to exile abroad. In his memoirs, written under the cloud of the purges in the wake of the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, when his stock was low in Moscow, Maisky claims that his desire to emigrate was driven by a wish to study socialism and the European workers' movement. However, the attraction of exile seems to have been more profound, revealing a cosmopolitan streak and a prodigious curiosity, which can be traced back to his childhood when he used to accompany his father, who believed that nothing develops a child so much as travel and getting to know new places, new people, new races and customs, on his distant missions across Siberia. When the family moved to St. Petersburg for a year, we find the 9-year-old Ivan still fascinated, standing a long while on the granite quays of the Neva, watching the complicated maneuvers of the Finnish boats, the loading of foreign ships, the tiny